We'll set the day started with a glance out in the morning here. There's going to be nothing to see. I'm just setting the table for today's or this evening's video. Fog is kind of heavy. Ag fields are right out there. And last evening, they set a bunch of harvesting equipment right out there through that gap. And I see now that the fog's lifted, they moved on to some other field. Those would be potato field right there. Right through there was beans. Then you have my food plots. Those are white birch. There's 100 of them. Groups of 5, 20 groups total. Yeah, blue jay yakking at us. I knew a guy that shot a 30-30 at the blue jays out of the kitchen window out here. I'm not that mad at the blue jays, but they are an annoyance. Alright, might go look around the backyard. If deer are going to come out this morning, they're going to be coming out soon, so I really don't want to be bothering them. This is the No Hassle Castle. There is a road right in front of the property right there. There's 5 apple trees. I am very thankful that the deer have not keyed in on them. There aren't a whole lot of apples in there, but they would wreak havoc on them. That tree has 1 fat juicy apple. That one has a half a dozen. That one may have 1. That one has a couple more. And then you got the driveway and my shadow. Gonna walk between the house and the garage, because if you step on the gravel, you create the gravel pop, and deer can hear that gravel under your shoes a long ways away. So there's the big cottonwood. There's the big ladder going up. That's not a ladder, those are actual steps. Another blue jay. And just one of the 3 or 4 food plots. That's the apple tree that they like to come out and hang out under. So there's a relationship between my house and where you're seeing all those deer. A water source right there. But that's where it's that close to me. That's where those deer are. And those are more of the white birch. And I'll zoom in on the last one in the group, which is like right there. Or we'll go up and get a closer look at it. But when I say they're in my yard, this is where they're at. Those pines used to be not a trimmed one in. This spring they trimmed them up. And yep, you can see 3/4 of a mile all the way through them. Every 12 feet. Anyways. You saw a lot of deer come out of right there. There's a licking branch under that jack pine. There's actually two. And yep, let's take a look at the turnips. Pretty nice. These are the ones they're not eating on me right now, and all of those would be the equal size, but hey, nobody wants to wait for cake. And there's a lot of clover in that lawn. It's not just lawn. And we'll go over and look from another point. This is the west side, and that is a bit of a stand of Egyptian wheat and weeds. Quite a learning curve to that, people. It is not throw and grow, believe it. And now we'll go up to that jack pine and see the point of view from there. Oh, we'll go ahead and let you see what I see. I have a serious vantage point here. Those deer can't see my body right now. Sure, they can see my head going across the top of this stuff. But I'm not making any noise, and there's no wind. So they're not really too bothered if they did get a glance at me. But believe me, if you walk through those pines, those deer are gonna bolt like nobody's business. This is a piece of apple tree, and that's a piece of vine. Nobody's scraping or anything underneath, but they do rub their orbital glands on them, and this is what they see when they come out. So back to the west. Like I said, you can see a long ways in there. Guess you have to do what you have to do. But then when we walk along here, again, it's a little wren that doesn't like me. There must be a nest around. I keep her quiet. Yacky. What I'm going to point out here is the switchgrass. Yeah, you see a lot of weeds and quackgrass, but they gotta like that. It's diverse. That's the switchgrass in the backyard, all the way down to the apple tree. and that is the second year. And just like the wheat, quite a learning curve. But I got her. I know what I'm doing now. Here's a real hot tip. Real hot tip. Grow buckwheat in the fall. Believe it. Nobody carries it. It's in some of the mixed bags of seed. And yeah, that's water hemp on the ground. But buckwheat in the fall, it's not just a spring seed at all. It germinates as quick and easy as any rye, wheat, or oats. You drop it on the ground and it germinates, and they mow it down. I actually have been throwing that buckwheat seed down once I realized it. I've been throwing it down like you do. I overseed, just like you will with the rye and wheat, the cereal grains. This apple tree has had a cage around it for probably 10 years. And this was the first year that I took all the wire away. The mice girdled that tree a half a dozen times, and it just kept surviving. So that's why it's so weirdly shaped at the bottom. Yes, there's always an epic sunshine coming through that magnificent cottonwood. How can't you love it? Okay, here we are. Those are the two apple trees. That's the jack pine. There's the old oak stump. And, yep, you're seeing the snow fence in the background and food plot after segmented food plot. And yep, that's the road right through there. And I didn't try my best, but I tried the Egyptian wheat on this side of my pines. And it did okay, but it's not the greatest. And then on the other side of those pines, I have switchgrass. But when I bought my switchgrass seed, I was unaware that it was only 3-foot tall switchgrass, whatever that genetic was. But it's okay. It shades the underside of all of those pines out there. You cannot see through them from either side. Ideal bedding. And then there's one more food plot way back that way. And I'll take us over there. But first, these are white birch. Buy them from Wisconsin DNR. Dirt cheap. Put a wire cage around them. I'll make a video on it. Put a wire cage around them. And that's 2 years of growth. And no exaggeration. They were planted 2 years ago. And this is what you feed the deer with them when you take that cage off. And this is what you get. And now this tree is these trees, there's 5 of them, are gonna live with that big That big boy did not like them as much. He had to put his mark in them. And you will see that in the video when he's raking on it. So the apple trees, and then this food plot. This is purple top turnip and buckwheat. And people say you can't overseed purple top turnip because it'll turn them all yellow, etc. Not everything goes the exact same way for every situation. I overseeded this to a crazy extent, and it couldn't be more lush green vegetation. And I honestly don't care if they're getting 12-inch leaves or 2-inch leaves. I don't have the luxury of fencing all of this off to get 12-inch leaves. And of all the vegetation out here, that buck has been mowing on that heavily. You'll all agree, heavily overseeded purple top turnip. In the video, you watch that buck stand right here and put his nose into the wind and sniff, sniff, sniff. Well, there happens to be a blind behind there, a stand. And I haven't been in the stand for 3 or 4 weeks. And he knew to get downwind and put his nose up there and sniff and try to sniff me out as hard as he could. And he found out there was no scent coming from there. Let me zoom in. You might be able to see my ladder that goes up. I apologize. I'm trying to... Oh, okay. That's the... What you're looking at is the licking branch. And then that little gap, there you go. You can see the bottom of the ladder. So there is a stand right there. Right there, 14 feet off the ground. Can you see it? Come on. Of course you can't see it. Almost walked past these doggone apple trees. Look at they have had a fence around them. You can see it in the back. The fence is still on the back side. They have had a fence around them for the same duration, about 10 years. And this is the first year I opened them up. And I mean, I grew branches all the way to the ground. Something wrong with that apple? Come on, man. That looks delicious. And they're not bothered. Look, there is a fence all the way around the back side of these 2 trees. So they can only come at it from my front. Look at that. They did a perfect pruning job. Those leaves were just going to fall off anyway. Trim the branches back nicely. And look at the candy. And this is not just weeds. I throw alfalfa and clover in all my tall grasses and weeds. That's the fence behind it. But I throw alfalfa and clover in all my tall weeds. Call me crazy, but they like it. Oh. An incredible juicy tree or bush is the hazelnut. And this hazelnut gets about 6 to 8 feet in diameter every year, and then it gets nibbled back, and ultimately it will get whacked to pieces. And I told you that they weren't putting a scrape under the other licking stick. Well, we have this licking branch. Yeah, and just a piece of white oak. And what? There, sorry, I'm trying to focus on the scrape that just took place in the last 2 days. They just started in the last couple of days putting a scrape underneath the licking branch. And yep, for anyone keeping count, there's a trail camera. And I don't use it. Now we'll go back around this edge, and this is where they're just mowing their trail. It's worth noting, every one of these white poplar or popple that I have hinge cut, those were hinge cut in the middle of last winter to give them the tops to eat, and it creates that tall weed scenario. Here's where some of the leaves are a little yellowed due to it being too close together. But then again too, it's whatever, right on here, they're almost just as close, and there is no yellow leaves whatsoever. But this is the extent of the hinge cutting for the most part, but you can see that's all wonderful buck open to the bucks, and you see how they buck snort. You see how they I anticipate they're gonna rub up these trees that I left like nobody's business. I put this snow fence in because deer like to walk along fence lines. And those are, I think, 5 more apple trees right there for the future. And yep, that's my garage out in the back. And then this side of this lane is not weeds at all. Those are tamarack pines in there. So I have a biodiversity of about 7 or 8 different types of pines here easily. And it's been fun. It's worth noting that laying down these trees like this don't allow, it gives them such separation and comfort that well, you see how they behave in the videos. And based on how fast they're mowing me down, I have already started overseeding with rye. Why not? There's just voids in here because I did a pretty good job on killing the weeds. Yes, there's a weed, and there's a weed. But there's also a lot of area in here that is just dead with no weeds. And that is the house in the upper left. We're going to go around the corner and then I'm going to cut this short. Yeah, there's a lot of grass, etc. in here, but hey, it's all good. I come over here to show you how much of a treetop they can eat. These were downed. I cut them, hinge cut them 2 days ago because I wanted to supplement or augment, whatever the word, some food sources for them because they're pounding the crap out of my food plot. And you can clearly see they spend as much time on these treetops as they do in my food plot. Not bad. And it's providing them that much more cover. They absolutely love to poke their heads into the trees from this side going in that way. That's the last of my food plot down there, and I'll highlight that one later.